Welcome to Married to History, where we try to be informative, entertaining, and family-friendly.
Aloha, I'm Christopher. I have a fancy piece of paper on my wall that says that I know more about history than most people do.
I'm Shirley. I'm a homeschool mom that relies on good curriculum, Christopher, and Crash Course on YouTube to teach our kids history. So, honey, I have a history question for you.
I love history questions.
And actually, it's Primus's question. She wanted to ask...
Oh, her, okay.
Yes. She wants to know, how do we know what all went down in the room where it happened? Because no one else was in the room where it happens. A historian by the name of Miranda claims no one really knows how the game is played, the art of the trade, how sausage gets made. He also claims no one really knows how the parties get to yes, the pieces that are sacrificed in every game of chess, you know? We just assume that it happens, but no one else was in the room where it happens. Do you have a comment? So, since this is not a visual medium, he has fainted.
I have not fainted. I am merely hiding my face in shame. So, first off, I hope that Lin-Manuel Miranda listens to us and sues you for quoting his music without permission on this podcast. So, we don't know what went down in the room where it happens because,
right.
Nobody recorded, or at least not that I've ever read, is there any recording of the conversation that went down. The only thing that we know of is that the deal was struck that moved the capital from the north in New York, or from it being in Philadelphia either, and moved it down into where it presently is in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so pause there. So for some context, some background for people who don't know Hamilton the musical, that was all quotes from A Song in Hamilton. And it was about Hamilton, Madison, and Jefferson making a deal that would, yes, move the United States Capitol.
So where the capital was going to be was long a dissension. So this is another one of those things where, unfortunately, I shouldn't say public school, where a lot of education lets people down. The divisions between the North and the South were not just only about slavery in the 1860s or leading up to the 1860s. The North and South were divided from the very beginning.
No, we didn't have any problems until slavery and the Civil War.
The very first settlement in Jamestown was most obviously made by people that wanted to get rich. The very first settlement in the northern parts of the Hudson Bay Colony, those were people that wanted to create ideal community. The motivations for the settlement in the various colonies were different, I kid you not, from day one. And those divisions, for various reasons, were always present. Okay. Because of those differences, the northern states and the southern states, the bigger states and the smaller states, they never trusted each other, never liked each other all that much. They were constantly looking for ways to get more power themselves, to hose the other states, to get themselves in the best position, like any of us would do. Any of us in any kind of negotiation or even team are going to be tempted to try to get a little bit more points for ourselves and make sure that, or at least somebody else that we don't like on the team, or we don't like as much as some of the other people on the team, doesn't get any more.
Then, okay, but then why didn't we just start two countries from the beginning?
It almost happened.
Yay, we worked together, we beat the British out, now let's divide it and, do our own thing.
It almost happened.
For real?
Yeah, long before the 1860s, where the secession happens and the Civil War begins, states had been threatening secession since even before the founding of the Constitution. On several occasions, states had disputed whether or not they wanted to stay in the United States or go off on their own. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I seem to recall Maryland and Pennsylvania almost went to war with each other over a border dispute. If I recall correctly, in the War of 1812, the southern states favored siding with France, and during the French Revolution, the northern states wanted to side with England. That was another division. I think about the time of the War of 1812, or prior to the War of 1812, New England was, like almost all of the New England area, was considering leaving the United States and going back to Britain.
Dang.
And there were other occasions too, but these are just the three most popular ones that I recall. And granted, I don't remember any of the extensive readings or studies that I did on the matter. These are just a couple of incidents that I recall literally off the top of my head. Everything is off the top of my head these days. The question of, are the United States one country, or are we 13 13 countries that just happened to get together for mutual benefit.
We just allied to beat the British.
Yes, that's basically the argument. And so one of the many things that was in dispute is, where's the capital going to be?
Okay.
There were concerns where the capital was because, first off, it would mean that some senators, some representatives were going to have it farther from their homes than others.
Yeah.
There was concern that the whatever state was in control of the capital might bully the other states some way, somehow, make their living expenses, their hotel reservations, things of that nature, and make those difficult and problematic. That there might be taxes on traveling to and from the states. It was very, very, very much petty bargaining. Lots of what goes on. Don't get me wrong. Founding fathers have my respect. They accomplished a lot of things that were that are undoubtedly really hard, but at the same time, they were not suave and sophisticated. Everything good about the men.
Yeah.
They were men who were very petty at times and would have petty arguments and disputes. So
they were politicians. They were little boys.
Yes. Some of what is in our Constitution and is still practiced in the Constitution, in Congress and whatnot today, is only in there because of petty squabbles during the Constitutional Convention.
Gosh, if people would just be adults, so many things would be better.
Honey, you've met a couple of adults in your lifetime, yes? Do adults act always as some higher bastion than children?
Adults should be more mature than children. They should be more logical than children. They should be more kind and empathetic. But so many times they're not. That's stupid.
So yes, like I said, where the capital was going to be was one of those arguments.
Okay.
I remember Jefferson had quite a few of those, but it's been such a long time. I was reading a book, it's actually a book about Samuel Adams, but feuds with Jefferson.
Not Samuel Adams.
Not Samuel. I keep saying Samuel Adams. John Adams.
You made that mistake so many times.
Yeah. Let's laugh at me for that. So I was reading a book about John Adams a couple months back, and so he and Thomas Jefferson, before the Constitutional Convention, or before the establishment of the Constitution, they were friends. They were the best of friends. After the Constitutional Convention, or after the Constitution was established, they very quickly became political rivals because they did not see things eye to eye.
Yeah.
Wait,
so politics can ruin friendships? Weird.
If the two people decide that, you know what, you're evil because of your politics, instead of, hey, you and I are perfectly cool guys, we just disagree on this thing.
Unfathomable.
Yes. I don't remember what all some of Jefferson's motivations got mentioned in this book because it was one of the things that they were disputing about, but I don't remember what they all were off the top of my head now. But yeah, Jefferson was among those people that wanted the capital to be, if not in the South, at least as close to the South as possible.
Of course,
so
he doesn't want to travel as far.
This is like the Great Compromise, like the 3/5 Compromise, like so many other compromises that have been made. The idea is like, okay, well, neither of us is going to get what we want, so let's find some middle ground that we can live with.
Okay.
And so literally the capital is moved to about the middle ground of the United States.
Yeah. But so where was it before?
Before it was during the American Revolution, it was in Philadelphia. If I remember correctly, Washington established his headquarters in New York. I might be wrong about that.
But he's from Virginia.
He's from Virginia, yes, but he didn't run the country from there.
Okay.
And then after the discussion of the room where it happens, then the capital gets officially moved to where it is in Washington, D.C. today. So I might be getting that wrong. It might have been that Washington's headquarters was in New York for the war, but he never went back to those. So I might be getting them mixed up, but I want to say that it was definitely Philadelphia for a time. Then it was either moved from there to New York before being moved to D.C., or it moved straight from Philadelphia to D.C.
Okay, interesting. So then in the song, in the musical, the compromise was that the capital was moved further to the south, but Hamilton got the banks. What the heck does that mean?
So this was one of the things that they were disagreed on. Hamilton wanted to have a national bank The reason being that this was going to enable the U.S. to control the economy a little bit better, or to pay its debts better. Jefferson and many other people aside from him did not like this idea, because basically Hamilton's idea was going to be that, and this again is another sign of how, okay, we weren't really established. Hey, are we all on the same team here, or are we all running for ourselves and we can occasionally get together?
Okay.
In fact, I think that's another song, or at least a line in the song somewhere from the musical. Jefferson at one point is going to say something like, why should Virginia be paying for New York's problems? Yep. So a good deal of the U.S. economy in the beginning years was thanks to the massive profits from the South, and the North were the countries were the states that more often had debts. Part of the reason for this is because, well, in the North they had more people, they had more population, more urban centers, and in the South you had fewer people, but the wealthiest of those few people were the plantation owners who were filthy rich.
Okay.
And if it wasn't for that case, like, as much as slavery is a horrible, awful thing, it is undeniable that the U.S.'s economy was dependent upon slave labor, especially during those early years before the U.S. could establish itself with its own economic practices, particularly with its own merchant marine, to be able to trade with other nations over the seas.
Oh.
This is a common problem amongst many revolutions and amongst many new countries that come into being. They lose the trade and the protection of the trade that they had with any other countries before their rebellion, and their economies are often in the hole because during the course of their revolution, they incur debts by taking on loans from the various countries they need to help them fight their revolutions.
Yeah, but, like, we don't actually pay back our war debts. Isn't that, like, a time-honored tradition?
So not everybody does, but depending on who those debts are from, you run the risk of them coming a-calling for their money. In the case of the U.S., we kind of got lucky. I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before, and I know it's in the musical somewhere. When the French come calling for their debts because the U.S. has not paid them back by the end of the 1700s, early 1800s, the U.S. welshes out on the French by basically saying, no, we don't owe the money to France. It was King Louis that lent us the money, and you killed him. Yeah. So we don't owe you anything.
That's slimy.
We never borrowed money from the French Republic.
I get it, but it also is, like, really slimy.
Yeah. But like I said, what we were just talking about, men are perfectly capable of acting childishly.
Yeah. And, correct me if I'm wrong, France was such a mess, we took the risk that they would come and take back what we owe them. But they couldn't because they were in such a mess.
Realistically, yeah, it probably wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the reasons for why the United States was feeling brave enough to say, no, we're not going to pay you back. Because, France was very much in a mess at the time. Yeah. They did not have the ability to launch anything really successfully against us. And there again, that's mostly thanks in part to the British. The British protected us because their navy is what was basically keeping the French landlocked.
But the British...
So this is one of the things, I think I may have said this before, or at least I know I've had this talk with my students before. This is one of the ironies of, like, you would think that, the people that support a revolutionary company, that's going to create a great and enduring bond of friendship between the two. But no. During the French Revolution, so we're talking like not even 20 years after, thanks to France, the United States has gotten its independence from Britain. Yeah. Not even 20 years goes by. All the people that were in power in government in the United States, they're still the ones that are in power in the government of the United States. And almost every one of them, not all of them, but almost every one of them, the majority of them are all saying, no, let's take Britain's side against France in this French Revolutionary War, in the wars between the French Revolution and the British.
Oh my gosh.
Not even 20 years, so not even a generation has gone by,
so that's even
and we're already siding with our enemies against the people that helped us, that enabled us to win against those enemies.
I just need to know how Lafayette felt about it. Lafayette helped us, and then we abandoned him.
I do not know how Lafayette felt. I do not recall what his ending days were. If I remember correctly, he was a member of the aristocracy. I want to say that he was in favor of the revolution at first, but I do not remember what happened to him. off the top of my head, two theories popped in, and I don't remember if I've read anything to substantiate either of these. Either he does survive the revolution and moves to the United States in exile, or not necessarily in exile, but just doesn't go back to France, or he eventually gets his head chopped off like a lot of the rest that stayed behind.
Dude, I'm gonna look it up because I really am curious now.
Are we gonna have dead air while you're looking that up?
No, because I know how to edit out the dead space now.
Ah, do you?
I do.
All right.
Hopefully listeners can tell that I'm getting better at editing.
Yeah, I have noticed once or twice that your tone suddenly changed there. Oh, you must have cut something.
Yeah, so maybe that's not great, but I can edit out the pauses.
Yes, I want to throw a disclaimer out here because this will mess with her trying to pause this out. She is the one looking stuff up. I am going off of what is in my head. My troubled, warped, cluttered, ever so messy head.
Let me see. Is it... Wait, what's his name?
Lafayette. The
What's
Marquis
his
de
first
Lafayette.
name? It is Marquis de Lafayette.
Well, Marquis wasn't his name. The Marquis is a title, kind of like the Duke.
So is this him? Okay, yeah, this is him. He was a French aristocrat.
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. He was a key figure in the French Revolution and the July Revolution of 1830. He is considered a national hero in both countries.
Okay, so he must have gone back to France then if he left.
He died in France, in Paris, at age 76.
Okay, cool on him. Alright, so he did not get his head chopped off.
But his American friends abandoned him in his time of need.
So, I'm curious about that. Did it say anything in there? Did he end up leaving France for a time and coming to the United States before returning, or did he stay in France the whole time?
I don't know. That's going to take a little more looking.
Alright, so we can do that another time.
Oh, he visited, and President James Monroe and Congress invited him to visit in 1824.
Oh, that was after the Revolution, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, way after.
Okay, so that would sound like he did stay during the whole of the Revolution and managed to avoid getting his head chopped off. He was a member of the nobility that managed to survive.
Yes, because he was on the right side.
He was on the right side. He was on the right side of history. I hate that expression. It's a ludicrous expression. Anybody that ever uses the expression in the right side of history, that person is a moron.
That is a topic for another day.
That is a topic
and I know
for
you
another
do
day.
feel strongly about it.
Yes.
But are there any other things where Hamilton the Musical proved to be a valid documentary?
A valid documentary?
I mean, Lin-Manuel Miranda didn't get anything wrong. It's completely historically accurate.
I can't say for sure. I know. I know I have the book that supposedly Lin-Manuel Miranda based the entire musical off of. I never finished it. I was reading it. It was only like a year or two ago while we were still down south. But I don't remember why I didn't finish it.
I don't know.
For whatever reason, I stopped reading it, and I think I started that's when I started reading John Adams' book instead. And then I never got back to it. Heck, I don't even know where that book is.
It's on the shelf.
We didn't pull
somewhere.
it off of my bookshelf for that one episode.
No.
Yeah, I'll have to finish reading that one day.
You should.
So, if I remember correctly, yes, okay, I know Manuel got a couple of things right. Yes, he was orphaned because their dad left them and the mom died at a young age. I know that he did grow up on Nevis. I know that he did get he did show early signs of intelligence. He did do a phenomenal job being a clerk or something of sorts for a trader or a trading company down in Nevis. He was balancing the books, and these are all things that probably made him be an excellent choice for the Treasury Secretary. He understood finances and economics, I think, a lot better, definitely than almost anybody at his age at the time. So I know that part was true. I know that the people of Nevis did sponsor him for college. They paid his way so that he could go to the United States and go to college. Whether that was because they intended for him to return and to make Nevis better, or no, that was just because that was something that people did do at that time. People did sponsor people to go off to college, to go off to schools.
Wait, so I have a question.
Yep.
So you're reminding me again.
Sorry, one more thing. And, okay, I might be remembering this wrong. If I remember correctly, I think he does have a claim to nobility, but because his father and his mother weren't married, or either they eloped or they never married, I don't remember what the case was, then that's why he gets the reputation for, oh no, he was an illegitimate, he was pardon my language, but this is an appropriate term for an an educational discussion, he was a bastard, and he got a lot of flack for that.
Right.
If I remember correctly, anyway, I think his dad also like squandered any inheritance that his side of the family would have gotten anyway.
Dude. Okay, so we were talking about establishing the bank. So how the heck were they? How did Jefferson, Madison, and Hamilton like making this little deal among themselves?
Mm-hmm.
How did that work? Because there's other people that had to go along with it and agree.
Much like today, there are party leaders. Jefferson was the leader among the Anti-Federalists. As he goes, the majority of Anti-Federalist votes
so they
would
just
go
trusted
with
him.
Not necessarily
Because they weren't in the room where it happens.
So I'd say there's a couple of things to it. You say trust. I'm sure some did trust him, but it's also entirely possible that others went along because of elbow twisting or bribes or other reasons.
So did other deals.
It's like politics in general. Some people are going to do it out of sincerity or out of conviction in what they're doing is right. Others are going to do it because they're getting something out of it. Others are going to do it because they're being intimidated. There's going to be a host of reasons for why people do the things they do. And unfortunately, this is not just a regular thing in politics. This is a regular thing in decision making in general. Yeah. Not all of us make the decisions that we know are the right and good and true decisions. We make the decisions that we think will not get us killed, or that will get us rich, or that will get us something that we want, whether that be life, property, or otherwise.
Right. Okay, so whose choice was it? Was it Congress's choice, or the cabinet, or Washington to create the bank and to move the capital?
To create the bank, I believe, would have had to have been Congress's choice. I do not remember in either case, but I think that both would have required Congress to act.
And Hamilton wasn't in Congress. He was in the president's
Hamilton
cabinet.
was not a member of Congress, nor was Jefferson.
That's
both
right.
Both of them were in the presidential cabinet. Yeah.
Wait, so then how did they have sway over the Congress?
Because party members in Congress, or rather influential people in Congress, yielded to their leads.
Okay.
So we've talked about this before. Washington, I believe, was among those people that recognized that, okay, political parties, that's going to ruin the country. We got to do everything we can to avoid political parties.
But it's impossible to stop people from dividing up.
Unfortunately, yes, it's very impossible to stop people. So you basically have a choice. You can try to have a no-party system, which is probably never going to happen. Yeah. So that means you're left with two options. Which one is better? All right, you have two parties that are, because there's only two of them, going to teeter-totter back and forth, or you have more than two parties in the hopes of establishing some kind of balance. We've talked about this. 3 is a universal principle. The three-legged stool. You need at least 3 for balance. If you don't have 3, you got the teeter-totter. I think that anybody who today would say that we don't have the two-party teeter-totter is ridiculous, because we see it like almost every election. If the Democrats are in control of one group, one election, the next election the Republicans are going to be in control of it. And it just goes back and forth to the point where one would argue that, okay, well, how much really gets done? Because when the Republicans are in power, they're going to kill anything the Democrats started. When the Democrats regain power, they're going to kill anything that the Republicans tried to start.
Right.
So anyway, we're getting off subject.
Sorry,
but
always.
So there were like-minded people, and Jefferson was recognized. And like I said, Jefferson was eventually recognized as the leader of the Anti-Federalists. Okay. Hamilton's going to be recognized as the leader of the Federalists eventually. The two of them, had it not been for the scandal that got Hamilton in trouble, odds are the two of them would have been the candidates going up against each other for a presidential election. And I very much wish that we could have seen the results of that, because I think that could have had drastic, and I mean drastic, effects on the course of U.S. history, especially with the country being at such a young age. Because a lot of big things happened during Jefferson's presidency, not the least of which was the Louisiana Purchase that we just talked about. Who knows how Hamilton might have handled that?
How would he have handled it?
I don't know.
Would he have been pro
Hamilton
purchase land?
As a Federalist, ideally, Hamilton would have been among the people that would have said, the president doesn't have that kind of power, so I can't do that. But who knows if he would have been actually put in that position.
Yeah. Interesting.
So anyway, even though they weren't members of Congress, they had sway in the party, they had the influence, and again, this could have been done through just sincere belief in what was right. This could have been done through bribes, this could have been done through favors, this could have been done through intimidation, and they just had the votes that they needed.
Right.
And this is how a lot of deal making gets done. There are a lot of people in Congress who they don't want to do anything. They don't want to do anything that's going to favor an opponent unless it's going to get them something that they want in return. So compromises and deals are going to happen all the time. And again, the idea being that it's not going to be perfect. Neither one party is supposed to get everything they want, but we're supposed to get it something that we can live with in the meantime.
Right. So, in your opinion, do you think it was a good move to move the capital to the south and to establish the bank?
Well, as far as establishing the bank, I'll be lying. I do not know enough about the bank and about exactly how Hamilton intended to go about it. This is a part of economics that I'm still not that good at.
Okay.
Nor do I really understand exactly what he was trying to do with it realistically. So I don't know as far as the bank. The bank eventually didn't do everything that he wanted to do.
Really?
Because unless I'm mistaken, that bank doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think any of the current economic systems that we have evolved from his bank. If I remember correctly, that bank is gone by, I want to say, the 1820s.
Seriously? So it's not like even the roots of like the FDIC or whatever?
No, the FDIC doesn't come about until the New Deal.
I have no idea what it is anyways.
So,
I know, I just heard that one.
Like,
that acronym.
The results of his banking is not something that I've studied a lot, so I'm not too clear on any of the details there. As far as the moving of the capital to Washington, that honestly, I don't think that would have mattered. I think a lot of the concerns that the founding fathers had about where the capital was, I don't think that would have been realistic. I don't think that the states would have purposely gone out of their way to hassle the other representatives or anything.
We've just established that they're ridiculous little boys,
but it never did happen.
Okay.
So, secondly, when the capital is created, it became kind of an autonomous zone. It was not under the mandate of the state of Maryland where the land was taken from. It was its own independent commune thing. So that way, Maryland wouldn't be able to do any of those things that that some of the founding fathers were worried about. But the one thing that is undeniable about, good call for moving the capital to Washington, D.C., is that it is very much in the middle of the country. I mean,
not anymore.
No, it's still pretty. But as far as a northern-south thing, remember, because at the time of the United States was like Chile. It was a thin line from north to south, not a wide east to west thing. So and doing that would have made it easier for all the representatives, because now this meant that they weren't having some of the ones from Georgia all the way up to the northernmost parts of Massachusetts wouldn't have been traveling quite so far and spending so much time to stay in the city or stay in some other city during the times that Congress was in session.
Right.
Today, though, I find it interesting. So I guess this is kind of on topic, off topic. Today, I'm very entertaining by listening to the discussions and the arguments about what to do with Washington, D.C. today.
What do you mean, what to do with it?
So, there are some calls that Washington, D.C. should become its own state.
I've heard that. People who live there, because people live there.
Yes, there are people who live there.
They don't have representation.
Yeah, there is no, since we talked about it, it's not part of Maryland, so Maryland representatives don't represent the people of D.C.
Yeah.
D.C. does not have any kind of representation in Congress, because again, even the people they don't have congressmen, and even the people in Maryland don't represent them. So that is something that they want. They want to have that representation, so that's one reason to call for them to be a state. Unless I'm mistaken, they have the population requirements, so that's another reason why some people are arguing that they should become a state. Other people are saying, no, don't make it a state. I mean, it was in the deal. It was in the deal where it happens that, no, this thing needs to remain outside of the control of the other states. I, for one, at the moment at least, with the limited knowledge that I have on the matter, I, for one, am among the group that says, if they want representation, I say don't make them another state. Give the land back to Maryland. And the people and the representatives of Maryland will take them on. I mean, it seems kind of wrong that, hey, Maryland, we took this land from you 200 years ago to do this thing. We don't think this thing is practical anymore, but we're not going to give it back to you.
But does Maryland care?
That would be another thing. I'm not a person from Maryland. For all I know, Maryland, would say if let's say that. All 98 senators from from the other states said that, yes, let's give this back to Maryland. I don't know that the two senators from Maryland might say, no, we don't want it.
Well, but I'm just imagining it's not like we're all these like small European countries who are fighting tooth and nail to get more land. That's not going on anymore.
Not anymore, yes.
Okay.
And then one of the theories that I have heard is I think it's a very valid point, is the theory that, okay, the only reason why the Democratic Party is so gung-ho about Washington, D.C. becoming its own state is because, unless I'm mistaken, the vast majority of the population in D.C. are Democrats, which tends to be the case. I mean, I think almost every major urban center in the United States has a larger portion of Democrat population than Republican or third parties. So it benefits the Democratic Party that, hey, if D.C. becomes a state, that's 2 more Democrats in Congress.
Yep.
That's 3 more Democrats in Congress.
Why 3?
Because they get their 2 senators, and then they get at least 1 rep.
Right. But Washington, D.C. then would become the smallest state, right?
It would be the
It'd be
smallest
smaller
state.
than Rhode Island?
It would be smaller than Rhode Island.
Why didn't any other state just absorb Rhode Island ages ago?
Because
it's so
that
small.
was not part of the charter?
I don't know. That's a totally different topic because
you're advocating for larger states absorbing the smaller states?
Yes, because it's stupid for such a tiny state to, like...
Do you not want anybody from Rhode Island to ever listen to our podcast? And don't give me that you can drive and then in the same minute see the "Welcome to Rhode Island, thank you for visiting Rhode Island" signs. It's bigger than that.
Is it though?
Yes.
Is it?
It is.
How long does it take to drive across Rhode Island?
I'm willing to bet it takes more than a minute.
I'm willing to bet it's the same size as one neighborhood in Texas.
How many times have you been to Texas, honey?
So many times.
How many?
So many.
Can you count them on one finger?
No, actually, I haven't.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Why are you trying to alienate people from other states?
I'm not alienating anything. I'm just saying.
You literally just said Rhode Island shouldn't exist.
Sometimes it's better for smaller places to be absorbed by bigger places. They can get more resources, you know.
It sounds to me like you were advocating for the conquest of smaller
countries.
It's not conquest. You're saying that they should just be absorbed. How are they going to do that? You think they're going to vote fairly?
By Rhode Island,
so Connecticut and Rhode Island are going to vote on whether Rhode Island is going to be absorbed by Connecticut. I'm thinking if Connecticut has even 1 more person than Rhode Island, that vote is not going to go in Rhode Island's favor. So, and what are you going to do about the people of Rhode Island that say, well, no, we don't want this, even though it was voted on fairly?
I mean, does it really matter, though? Because you're still part of the United States.
Yes.
Is the
and
same
Rhode
federal
Island
government
is one of the original signers of the Constitution. Why would they then say, so, yeah, you're allowed to absorb us? Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that a state is allowed to absorb another state. In fact, the only thing that has happened is some states have been broken up to create new states, not absorbed to destroy states.
But there's strength in numbers.
You're just now advocating that we go from 50 states to 49. No. That's less numbers.
No, I'm saying Connecticut, or whoever absorbs Rhode Island, would be bigger and have more numbers.
Well, there again, you're going with the idea, but is that necessarily good for the people of Rhode Island? Are they getting a good deal out of it? And maybe the people of Connecticut don't want Rhode Island. Maybe the people of Massachusetts don't want Rhode Island.
Maybe the people
of Maryland don't want D.C.
Yes. Is there prejudice against the people in D.C.?
I don't know. I've never been there.
They're from the other side of the tracks.
I don't know. I've never been there. I've never been to D.C. I've never been to Maryland. I've never been to Rhode Island either. At least not that I can recall. I would like to go there someday.
What is it even there? Why would anyone go? I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. I'm being really
to be
mean
fair,
now.
I was specifically mentioning DC. I was thinking of DC.
You said Rhode Island.
I said Rhode Island last, but I meant to imply that I would like to go to DC someday. I would like. No, okay. So I cannot think of anything off the top of my head specifically about Rhode Island that I'm dying to see, but so much of our country's history is on the East Coast, so there are lots of things that I'm sure I would find out about if we went over there that I was thinking, ooh, I want to see those things.
Possible.
Virginia's got a lot of good stuff in it. Maryland's got a lot of good stuff. New York, Pennsylvania, Georgia.
If we go to New York,
the East Coast has a lot of good American history.
I will do an East Coast trip with you if we go to New York and watch some Broadway shows. That's all I ask.
Which shows?
That's all I ask.
I need to know which shows.
Any and all of them. 6, Hamilton, What else is on right now?
I'm not opposed to seeing Six.
Parade.
I'm not opposed to seeing Hamilton.
I want to see Parade.
Why?
I don't know. It's new and I don't know much about it, but I know the true crime that it's based on, and it's a fascinating story.
Okay. I was about to say that I've never heard of this one, and I thought it was going to be embarrassing, but it's brand new. Okay, so now I don't feel embarrassed anymore.
Well, the musical isn't new, but it's new revival.
Oh, okay.
It's historical.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
Anyways,
I like learning about my history without having it being sung to me.
It's so much better when it's sung, though. I know all about the room where it happened only because of Hamilton.
You know all about it.
I know all
Didn't we
about
start
it.
this conversation by you asking me about it because you didn't know, and me telling you we don't know about it?
I know there's something about a bank and something about the Capitol, and I know who the main people that were there.
Congratulations, you know as much as anybody else does.
I know
Everything
more
else, to the best of my
than-
knowledge, is theory. The type of theory you hate because it's probably a theory made by historians that are basing it on little to no evidence, or on their interpretations of unsupported evidence.
Yup. I know what the first murder trial was in America.
Really?
Thanks
Tell
to
us about
Hamilton. It was Levi Weeks. I don't remember his name.
Give me strength.
They say it really fast in the song. I don't know what they're saying.
You know, you could look it up. You're holding a phone.
I could. But I was going to do the outro because we're done.
Oh, are we done?
We're done.
I'm done with you. That's fine.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, then please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave us a 5-star review.
If you'd like to hear a future episode with more information about today's topic, contact us on Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at Married to History Pod.
Also, please contact us if you have a silly question idea or if there's something from history that you would love to learn about.
Just be sure to specify in your message if it's silly or serious, because we don't want to treat a genuine quest for knowledge as a joke. And may I officially, on behalf of my family and I, apologize to our fans from Rhode Island for any disconcerting messages that you might have gotten during this podcast. We love all people and all states equally.
Yes. And if anyone wants to sponsor us to come to your great state, we will gladly visit.
All right, so that's a lie. Hawaii is the best, but yeah, okay.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Aloha, my ohana.
Okay.
Okay, what?
We're ready.
To play Skippo?
No.
One of these days we should play Skippo again. It's been a while.
That is a good game.
It is a good game. Why is it that number one keeps liking these like really good games, but then it only lasts for like a week and then she never plays it again?
I don't know.
I mean, she did it with Skippo, she did it with 5 Crowns. She got 5 Crowns as a present. And I think she is only asked to play it one time.
Oh. Not everybody hyper-focuses and does nothing but one game forever like you do.
That's ridiculous.
Are you sure you're not ADD? Because hyper-focusing is like an ADD thing.
You're an ADD thing.
Okay.
I was hyper-focused on you.
For a short time, and then you moved on.
Short than one, my fault you got pregnant.
What?
I never would have moved on from you if you hadn't given me number one.